Hello everybody, welcome to our update. Um, we're going to be doing them a bit more regularly, but we were waiting for details. Details came out last week, I think it was very late last week, on the apprenticeship scheme. So we're just going to go through that. We are going to go through some other stuff as well. Um, so we will be doing that later on, or just as we go through. Today is actually it's Hiroshima Peace Day, so it's 75 years since the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, which is obviously a sad event. It's also in 1991, on a better note, Tim Berners-Lee released his files describing the idea of the World Wide Web, and if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here today doing this webinar, which is amazing. 1991, gosh, I was obviously a lot younger then. So I'm just going to share slides to start with. If you've got any questions, obviously just put them in. We have got some questions already on it. The guidance has come through on part of it. There is still some lacking guidance, and Steve has been the one that's been trawling through everything. So he is going to be the expert on this one, and he will be the one mainly answering all the questions as well on this as we go through. So obviously there's been some updates. So we're just going to go through some quick updates, just briefly. So the SEIS, which is for the self-employed, the job retention bonus scheme, there is a second round. Job retention bonus, £1,000 per person, brought back into furlough. Now that, if they come back in January, that's also for employed directors. So that actually impacts directors. If you yourself actually got furloughed, you are entitled to this as well. And the Kickstart scheme, now that we are still waiting for details on that, but the basics are, it's create jobs for 16 to 24-year-olds, the minimum 25 hours per week plus training that they can do, and you're going to get funding at the minimum national wage for those 25 hours. And the applications from August. Now it says from August, but we actually haven't got any details on this. And Steve will sort of elaborate more on that shortly. And then there's the new apprentice scheme. And that's whereby there's a one-off £2,000 for anyone taken who's between 18 and 24, and then, or 16 to 24, and then 1,500 for those over 25. This you can only apply for in September, and I think there's a period of 90 days before you'll get that anyway from when you've employed them. So we're still waiting for a little bit more detail, but there's a lot more detail on there, and Steve will be going through that. You probably all know about this. It's been in our blogs, so hopefully you've seen that. There's a VAT cut for food, which took effect on the 15th, and that's 5%. So any food when you go out to eat is now 5%. So if you have been out to eat, you will have seen that. And as of this week, you get 50% off help eat out to help out. So that's when you go out, not in drive-throughs or takeaways. So McDonald's takeaway, you can't get this 10% off, 50% off up to £10. If you go and sit down into a McDonald's, then you do get it. So go and sit down in McDonald's if they allow it. And then the Green Home Grant, the vouchers. This is again, we are. There's more detail coming out on this. I know lots of you are a bit interested in this just because of your home situation, maybe your office. The voucher's £5,000 to £10,000 depending on your income. But this is to insulate your home, is to actually put, solar panels in, all these sort of things to make your home better. But you do have triple glazing, double glazing, everything like this. So if you are wanting home improvements, it's actually well worth it. The whole reason for this is obviously for the Chancellor to sort of generate the tradespeople and also sales of renewables in that field, which hopefully will generate more employment and more income in the economy. So this is just going off SES as a self-employed, and the 17th of August is for your second round. So if you are self-employed, you have to have done the second round by the 17th of August. This is just online. You just have to confirm you've been impacted by COVID, and then you actually get some funding further down the line when HMRC pay you. The job retention, I have just mentioned this. So as a director, you are entitled to the £1,000 if you did furlough yourself at some point within the furlough scheme. The furlough scheme comes to an end in October, and I'm sure you're all aware of that from previous blogs and webinars. So the new apprenticeship scheme. Now this is where we sort of are a bit more interested in the detail, and this is where Steve has spent time looking over. Now within this, it is open from now, the 1st of August, until the 31st of January, although we still need some details. We only just got details last week, so and then also what we are waiting for is to know when you know what the form is that you need to do, which is in September. So there, the 1st of September, it states it there, and the payments as well with the 90 days. Steve, do you have anything to add on that? We've got questions on this, but
yes, the Apprenticeship Service is the central hub for the apprenticeship scheme. What I've found in hiring apprentices in the past is that actually getting in touch with a training provider that provides apprenticeship schemes, such as West Kent.
Yeah, there's West Kent College locally here.
Locally. Down where I am, there's a place called Sussex Coast College down in Hastings, and I actually got an apprentice through them in a previous position, and they were extremely helpful. They explained the scheme. They pre-interviewed candidates, which, given some of the candidates I saw coming through on the apprenticeship site, was very welcome, because the candidates that came through were actually good candidates for the job. So I'd highly recommend contacting local apprenticeship providers to see if they can provide assistance, because them providing assistance to get you an apprentice means they will get the money for doing the training. The important thing I note on this is this case of it's why it's important to get the detail rather than the original announcements, because when we did this webinar the beginning of last month, it originally said that the amount that was allowed was 2,000 for 18 to 24-year-olds, and an additional 1,500 for over 25s. It turns out that in the sense that the Chancellor was using additional in his speech, he meant also there will be a £1,500 grant for taking on someone over 25, not there will be £1,500 on top of the £2,000. So again, that's something that's come out in the detail, and this is why we always prefer to work from the detailed legislation and guidance where possible, because announcements are sadly open to misinterpretation on occasion. And in order to encourage people to have the apprentices on long term, the grant is actually being split into two parts. One payable when you've had them for 90 days, which is why even if you take somebody on now, you wouldn't be able to get the grant until the end of October, which is why the fact that you can't actually apply already is it's not ideal, but it's not necessarily a problem. And then they have to have been with you for a year to get the second half of the grant.
I mean, there is a question that we did have, and that was can you employ someone on 16 hours per week rather? Oh, I think this might be more for the kickstart actually, week rather than 25 hours, so that their benefits include housing benefits are not affected, because obviously 16 hours is what you need to be doing and then still get housing benefit.
The apprenticeship scheme, there's been a few tweaks to the scheme, but I believe actually having shorter working hours whilst doing a training scheme at the same time is allowed under the apprenticeship scheme. So the larger details of the apprenticeship scheme haven't changed. It's sort of a bit of fine tuning. I mean, one of the other things that's changed is there has to be some proper accreditation. They're really clamping down on making sure that the training is properly accredited for the apprenticeship scheme. To make sure it isn't just abused as, oh yes, we're teaching this guy how to fix engines, it's all fine. There has to be proper accreditation, but for the most part, the scheme is operating as before, and at 16-hour working apprenticeships have been possible. But yes, the Kickstart scheme, I believe, is a different kettle of fish, but we shall come to that in a little while, because that's a bit further down the slides, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that question was obviously was from Steve, and I know they, the way that they do at the ones here have proper accredited schemes. So that it sounds like he will be absolutely fine with that. There on the apprenticeship, this is the Kickstart one, obviously, where there would be an issue on that one. Is there any other questions on? Let's just have a look. If there are any questions on this.
Looking like it.
That's fine. So if you've got any questions on the apprenticeship scheme, we just now going on just Kickstart, because the Kickstart itself is. I'm just going to. I mean, literally, the registration for the scheme is supposed to be being available, now in August, but we are actually still waiting details. But however, Steve, do you want to just give a lowdown on what we actually do know and what your thoughts of this are?
Right. The scheme is intended to create jobs for 16 to 24-year-olds. The big headline announcement was that the wages would be paid for 6 months. That is actually a lot more restricted offer, which I'll be honest, I'm not hugely surprised by. It's they will pay 25 hours per week at national minimum wage rate. Now, we have been asked. Say this was the question we covered a moment ago about the apprenticeship scheme, whether it's possible to work their hours. Again, this is one where we're waiting for the detail, but I would suspect, since the purpose of the scheme is to create what is considered a viable new job, that there will be a minimum number of hours, and I would be surprised if this was not set at the 25 hours a week that the government can fund. But I mean, as Nikolai said, we're waiting for the detail on that, so we cannot confirm that either way. But they will almost certainly have some restriction there, because otherwise you could take somebody on for some nominal amount of hours simply to get a bit of cash out of the government and a bit of cheap work, and it wouldn't really achieve the intended aim of the whole scheme. There is also supposed to be extra funding for overheads associated with taking on the employee. There's no detail on that so far, as I can see. So yeah, I mean, really, we're waiting for the further information on that. It's all about creating new jobs. So I mean, one thing I don't think we highlighted, but was on the slide for the apprenticeship scheme is the apprenticeship. To be eligible for the grant, can't be somebody you've employed in the last 6 months. There will almost certainly be something similar on the Kickstart scheme there, basically to stop you firing someone and then bringing them back solely to get cash out of the government. They have been a little bit lax on the handing out money in some of these schemes because they've been rushed through, but that sort of thing they are usually pretty good on. They refer to it as an anti-forestalling measure, basically stopping somebody doing something solely to get more money or more benefit from the scheme. But yes, applications are supposed to be available from this month. We still don't have the details of the scheme. I'm quite surprised. Even looking this morning, and most of what I'm turning up is from about a month ago when the announcement was originally made.
Yeah, I mean, we actually put this meeting in place thinking that we'd have more on the Kickstart as well. We obviously wanted to go ahead with it because we had enough on the apprenticeship scheme. But we will be needing to do more of these just when we get to know more about the Kickstart. The big thing there is that it is supposed to be someone who hasn't been employed for 6 months that comes onto the apprenticeship scheme.
Right. On that, Graham's just dropped in a
Okay.
query for clarification there. No, my understanding is has not been employed by the person that is taking them on, within the previous 6 months, not by anybody. So it's possible someone will have been made redundant from another job as a consequence of this, and as long as it is not the employer that has made them redundant that is then taking them on apprenticeship or the Kickstart scheme, that should be fine as far as I'm aware. It is literally to stop employers sacking someone and then taking them straight back on, not to stop employers taking on people who've lost their job somewhere else and are looking for a new position.
Obviously, if things change, details change, and we hear about it, we will let you know. We'll put more in the blogs, and we'll let everyone know if any of that is changing. There has also been sort of rumours on everything as well. So Steve has been the one that's been going through all the detail that the government have put out. So if you have any other queries, later on, obviously found his way. We are going to be obviously looking at more detail as well. So on the Kickstart scheme, obviously they will pay for 25 hours. So even if you don't need 25 hours, if you can find 25 hours worth of work, then it's worthwhile doing that. And so that you get the minimum wage, national minimum wage for them. If they are on housing benefit and everything like that, obviously could cause an issue for them. I wouldn't know the detail on that, which would be potentially something different to be looking at. On the other questions that we had, we did have on the apprenticeship scheme, that we haven't got too many more on that at this moment in time. But on the greenhouse one, I'm just going to share my screen here. So if there has any more on that, do pop them in and we'll go back to that. As I said, we'll put more out there for you, the more detail we get. And we will be sort of keeping an up-to-date view on everything. So just on the green home grants, there's been a little bit out there more. So I mean, it's just literally the fact that you've got this the 5,000 up to £10,000 maximum, and it all sort of depends on your income base. But it's do you want to mention a bit about this, Steve, and how it operates and how you think it's going to operate, and what detail we have?
This is details that literally only just came out yesterday, and this is sort of very early detail. Let me just call that one up on the other screen. Now, one of the things the second point highlighted there is to ensure that the work done is proper green home improvements. Anybody that is offering a scheme that is going to be offering building work that's going to be eligible for this, they need to be registered for one of these two schemes to prove that they are capable of doing the work they're trying to do. It covers a fairly wide range of green home improvements. Floor, wall and roof insulation is covered, low carbon heating, heat pumps, solar thermal measures. It seems to be a sort of very broad range of greener group improvements that are covered. Basically anything that will reduce energy bills, cut carbon emissions seems to be for it. We have now the detail on what counts as a lower income family, because when it was announced, it was 5,000 to 10,000 depending on income. So a low income family is considered to be one that's on income-based benefits or disability benefits. Does it include double glazing? Yes, double glazing is included. Double glazing is actually on the list. Double glazing to triple or secondary glazing, where it's replacing single glazing. Energy efficient doors, hot water tanks. Yeah, it's a very broad range that appears to be covered. And yes, for ordinary households, it's up to 2/3 of the project costs to a maximum of 5,000. For the low income households, said ones receiving those particular benefits, then it's 10,000, and it can cover the entire cost of the project if it is up to £10,000. But the key thing is going to be finding a tradesperson that has registered under one of those two schemes, and is thus able to offer the green improvements. But yeah, and that very much seems in the same direction.
Yeah.
Right. Got the question: are landlords 2/3? It's the details released yesterday say homeowners, which includes owner-occupiers and social private landlords. So that would
It is landlord,
yes,
yeah.
that
Definitely.
landlords are eligible for it as well, which makes sense because they are trying to encourage just general green housing, and as long as you're getting green housing, they're not that worried about who's actually benefiting as such.
Yeah, I mean, on this, there is £5,000 out there for everybody. So everybody can have this £5,000. From what I understand and from what the detail, I think it was only mentioned yesterday, a lot of this in Parliament, is that you have to install insulation and low carbon heating at the same time to be eligible. So you have to do that, which isn't a bad thing. So you have to do all this. Obviously, I don't know how the accreditation is going to work because it's literally, all coming out at the same time. But it's definitely there for you as a landlord. If you have, a rental property, or you as a homeowner to make your home better. I will be looking at this myself once we get a little bit more detail, and I know tradespeople that can do this. So and also I know there's someone else, well, a few of our clients are really interested in this. So, and one of them knows someone who is an accredited person and always looking to be this. So he will share that detail with us as soon as he is aware of this. And we will happily share that on to everybody through webinar and the blog as well. So I think it is something to worth looking at if you're happy to spend a bit of money on your home and receive this £5,000 or up to £5,000 money, grant, because it is definitely worth making your home greener and saving the environment from the CO2. So that was on there. Just going. If there's no question, I'm just going to go back on. So was there a question?
There's a question, but it's not related to the green homes. It's going back to the apprenticeship and Kickstarter.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to go back to the apprenticeship scheme because I have some other questions on there as well. So which scheme do you think is better, in your opinion?
From an accountant's perspective, part of the problem is we don't have the details on the Kickstart scheme. But from a purely money perspective, if you are just employing someone for 25 hours a week at national minimum wage, the Kickstart scheme would be you getting a worker for free, effectively. The downside on that is they may be a terrible worker that actually disadvantages your company, that doesn't do any good, that takes up your time dealing with them and creates other problems. The advantage of the apprenticeship scheme is you would have somebody that is getting training that is relevant to your business straight away. Whereas I don't believe the two schemes will be able to be combined. So if you had someone on the Kickstart scheme, you can have them as apprentices at the same time. So on the apprentice scheme, you be getting supported training, so they would be getting relevant knowledge for your business straight away. If you get an apprentice through someone like an accredited training provider, you're in a much better position to know that you're getting somebody that is competent and willing to do the work. So you should end up with a better employee, whereas under the Kickstart scheme, you would have to do the interview process yourself. And thus you're going to take time doing the interview process, and you may end up with somebody rubbish anyway. But of course, the downside on the apprenticeship scheme is once you get the grant, you would still have to pay the apprentices' wages yourself. So, I mean, just from a purely financial point of view, the Kickstart that allows you to get free labour is the better scheme. But I'd say it depends on what you're wanting. If you're wanting an employee that is motivated and is getting training, so can actually start to really give value to the business as soon as possible, then the apprenticeship scheme is probably the better choice for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate exactly what Steve says. From a purely financial perspective, the Kickstart scheme makes more sense. In them, it's free. You have somebody working for you for free, but there's a little bit more than the cost that you may want to evaluate. We still need the detail though on the Kickstart scheme. So once we have that, we'll be able to have a better indication, because there may be things it may be able to go through the college, an accredited one. Who knows? It may not. But if it does, then you're definitely best doing the Kickstart scheme, potentially. But there are other things to obviously think about as well on that. So a few other questions on this, but let me just bring it up. Sorry, Steve. There we go. And I did have a question here that we had was why does the Job Centre Plus website not have anything about the Kickstart scheme on their website?
Basically, the same reason that we don't have that information, but it just hasn't been released yet. And I do believe there was a follow-up question as to how you could put in a job that was eligible for Kickstart scheme. And as things stand, the detail hasn't been released, so you can't. And this is really surprising. In tough times, the government has been getting things out too badly promptly. They were earlier than they expected to get out the first claim to the self-employment scheme. They have been getting money out to people promptly, so these schemes have been put in place surprisingly quickly. So the fact that here we are in August when the Kickstart scheme is supposed to start and we still don't have those details, it's very much odd against the previous ones. And you do start to wonder if they realise that maybe it's a bad idea they can't fund, and they're hoping it will quietly slip away. But I don't think it really will, because too many people like yourselves are interested in potentially taking someone on it.
Yeah. And then the other question is, so basically it should be there, and it will be there once the information is there. So the next question was, can we provide full-time job and still get the funds, or do they only have to work a maximum of 25 hours?
I mean, again, this is partly a waiting for the details question, but my understanding would be it's a case of they will fund 25 hours a week at national minimum wage, but what you pay as an employee, whether you pay them more than national minimum wage, whether you have them working more hours, it's almost certainly going to be between you and them. The scheme is simply, this is the amount that we will fund. But once the details come out, there may be more clarity on that. I would be surprised if they actually restricted the number of hours, because the whole point of the exercise is to get more jobs. So a job with more hours is obviously considered better than the economy than one that's artificially restricted to 25 simply to gain a grant.
And I'll reiterate that I'm absolutely positive that you can work more than 25 hours. That they may require you to have some sort of training in place as well for them, but you can argue that as opposed to on-job training, on-job working is actually training as well, as long as it's not having to be accredited, and even if it is, so that it depends on the institution. So I would have said definitely we can do more than 25. I think it is just the minimum that they expect from what I've understood from it, from what I've read. Okay, I don't know. I mean, on the apprenticeship scheme, it is a bit woolly, and we apologise for that. But it is because we haven't got all the details, especially on the Kickstart scheme. We do think it's a really good opportunity for businesses to utilise it if they wish to, because it gives them an opportunity to bring somebody in, see if they're any good as well, because it's an apprenticeship scheme, so you don't have to retain them. And if you do want to retain them, obviously you're able to retain them, train them how you wish, at a very good rate, or free, potentially in the Kickstart. And then you can actually bring them in as a proper person within your business. And for young people, it's amazing, because at the moment, there are quite a lot of unemployed. There's quite a lot of unemployment coming up, already. And furlough is going to be finishing in October. And then we are expected to have some more redundancies. So it's within the economy. So hopefully this does help both business and younger people as well. Okay, Steve, have you got anything else to add on that? I have.
There is another question that's come in that's
Oh,
not to do with the apprenticeship schemes. It's to do with the green grants. Will the green grants be per property or per landlord? Now, I've just skimmed through the guidance that was released yesterday again, and it is talking about households being eligible for it. Now, so I would interpret that as per property, because the idea is individual households benefit. It may be they release more detail later to restrict it for landlords that own multiple properties. But again, the fact that they are trying to improve green housing generally, it makes sense for them to actually allow it per property, because that will result in more households having greener living and essentially achieving the aim of it. So yeah, as it stands, it says households. I say the answer is yes, that should be per property. If there's further guidance later that indicates otherwise, we'll let you know.
Yeah, and I would say, from everything I've seen, it should be per property, and I know, if you have more, as you do, then it's definitely worth looking at. Cool. All right. Well, just if there's no other questions, I'll just say try and use the e-town. It's a help out scheme. Get your £10 or up to 50%, max £10. And there's quite a few local ones around, so we will be trying that myself as well.
Right. Yes, on that, I've just dropped a link into the chat, but you can find that same link in the blog on the Naylor website, which is the government's searchable database of restaurants that are eligible for the scheme. You put in a postcode, it tells you registered restaurants within the 5 mile area of your postcode in order of distance from where you are. I find it especially amusing that the search results with the government's new focus on trying to combat obesity includes a line, look out for better health choices when selecting somewhere to visit, and yet the list includes KFC and McDonald's. So yeah, maybe if you have a McDonald's salad or something like that, that's what they're trying to encourage you into doing. But yes, it's very good. Does you within 5 miles, gives you the names and the addresses of the participating restaurants. So Monday to Wednesday, yeah, it's definitely worth trying out. I managed to make use of it myself on Monday, and I'd forgotten that I would actually be eligible for it. So when they said how much my bill was, I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, definitely something to take advantage of.
I've already noticed that the pubs seem to be quite busy outside, or restaurants at the moment. Well, this Monday to Wednesday already. So I think that seems to be hopefully working, which is great for those owning restaurants and other food outlets. That to cover. Anyway, have a really good weekend. Hope that was useful to you all. We will be updating you on anything else on blogs, and also we will also do more of these as soon as we get some more detail, and we will sort of do more regular ones just as we go on. I am on holiday tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. Steve will be around though, so if you have any queries, we're doing a staycation in Blackpool to meet there's some family up there. But I haven't been to Blackpool since 1988, so I'm looking forward to all donkey rides and everything again, if we can. Anyway, have a good weekend, and thank you for coming. Take care. Bye.
Right.